We all spend decades planning for, a 15 or 20-year retirement. It's sort of the standard assumption, right? That your money needs to last until maybe your mid-80s.
Hmm.
But what if you're one of the millions of people who is healthy, active, vibrant, and you're going to live well beyond that, maybe 30, even 40 years into retirement?
This changes the entire equation.
It really does. So the question isn't just, are you prepared for retirement, but are you prepared for the cost of that long, high-quality, vibrant life?
And that longevity,
Yeah.
that is the ultimate financial curveball. I mean, when you just look at the baseline numbers, they're already pretty daunting.
Right.
A typical 65-year-old couple is looking at an estimated, $295,000 in healthcare costs during retirement.
And that's just the baseline?
That's just the standard medical stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't even begin to account for the costs of living an active life that lasts longer. The travel, the hobbies.
Yeah.
And this is the big one. The medical help you need to preserve your function, to stay active.
So if you gain an extra 10 or 15 years of high-quality life, your money has to stretch that much further.
Exactly. And cover more expensive needs along the way.
Okay, so that's what this deep dive is all about. We want to secure the confidence for that longer, vibrant future. We're going to unpack the essential blueprint for everyone in the 50-plus demographic.
And we're really targeting what a lot of experts call the marginal decade.
The marginal decade. What's that exactly?
It's that final critical period where your health and your financial planning have to intersect perfectly. The idea is, if you get your money and your body right over the next 10 years, you can set yourself up for 3 decades of thriving.
And the urgency for this kind of planning is higher than ever, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Our sources on this are really clear. Workers today are facing just a lot more economic uncertainty than previous generations.
More debt, I'm guessing.
Way more non-mortgage debt. And here's the kicker, the real irony. Despite all our medical advances, many people are actually in poorer health as they approach retirement than, say, 20 years ago. Wow. So it's a double whammy.
It is. It makes the kind of blueprint we're building today, well, it's completely non-negotiable.
All right, let's get into it. Our mission today is to synthesize a really massive stack of sources to define what effective planning looks like right now. Our knowledge is coming from the Charles Schwab 2026 Wealth Management Outlook. We've got strategies from Next Adventure Financial on bridging that health insurance gap.
And the cutting-edge longevity science from Dr. Peter Attia and his whole Medicine 3.0 philosophy.
Plus, we're pulling in lifestyle insights from the famous Blue Zones research and some really foundational physical training advice from the CDC's Growing Stronger program. So we'll cover the finances, the new tax landscape, and the health side of things, all intertwined.
Let's do it.
So let's start with that financial foundation. The core lesson from the Schwab Outlook, and this really applies no matter what the market is doing, is that good wealth management isn't about, panicking over the headlines.
We're chasing the latest hot trend. Exactly. It's about anchoring your decisions in decades. And it has to integrate every single part of your financial life. Your assets, your debts, your taxes, everything.
That word alignment, that's really the North Star here. If you can align your portfolio with the true urgency of your goals, you take the emotion out of it.
Which is the hardest part.
It's the hardest part. It forces you to make rational, durable decisions. I mean, when people panic sell during a market dip, it's usually because they haven't properly separated the money they need soon from the money they won't touch for decades.
Okay, so we can't treat all our money the same way. We need to think in, 3 different time horizons?
3 distinct buckets, yeah.
How do we break down the approach for each one?
Well, let's start with the one furthest out, your long-term goals. This is, your multi-decade wealth building, the bulk of your retirement money, your legacy planning.
The money that's going to fund you 20, 30, maybe even 40 years from now.
Precisely. And for that reason, it absolutely 100% demands growth exposure.
And when we say growth exposure, especially now in this higher interest rate world, what's still at the center of that long-term bucket?
It's still equities. It's stocks. They remain the necessary engine for real growth. I mean, yes, fixed income is finally giving us some compelling yields, which is great.
A welcome change.
A very welcome change. But they generally don't provide the kind of inflation-adjusted returns you need over decades. You need that long-term money to not just grow, but to actually outpace inflation over the long haul.
And you can afford to ride out the ups and downs because you have that long time horizon for recovery and compounding.
That's the key. The risk of not growing that money over 30 years is, frankly, far greater than the risk of short-term market volatility.
Okay, that brings us to the middle bucket, the intermediate term money. This is for things with a specific timeline, right?
Exactly. College in 5 years, a new business in 3, that big home renovation you want to do right after you retire in 7 years.
How do we structure that money?
This is where disciplined cash management really shines. Now that the bond market is a bit more, let's say, rational and predictable, we can do a much better job of matching specific assets to specific future spending needs. And we are huge proponents of using structured ladders for this.
Okay, a structured ladder. It sounds a little complex, but it's really just a timing tool, isn't it?
It's just a deliberate timing mechanism. It doesn't matter if you're using treasury ladders or CD ladders or even short duration bond ladders. The idea is the same. You stagger the maturities.
So if you need, say, $100,000 for a reno in 3 years.
You might break that up into 3 chunks of roughly $33,000 and have one mature in year 1, one in year 2, and one in year 3. It keeps you from ever being forced to sell a long-term stock at a market low just because you need some cash.
Right, and we talked last year about locking in those high short-term yields. Even if those yields have come down a bit, you're saying the principle of the ladder itself is still the important part?
Absolutely. The main function here is risk mitigation, not trying to squeeze out every last drop of yield.
Got it.
The biggest mistake people make here is they try to get too cute. They'll put all their intermediate money into one slightly longer term bond for a bit more yield, and then boom, a cash need pops up.
And if rates have gone up, they have to sell that bond at a loss.
Exactly. The latter makes sure a piece of your cash is always coming due. It gives you liquidity while still earning something, even if it's not a record-breaking return.
And finally, the immediate money, the short-term bucket, liquidity, the emergency fund. This is where people get into trouble by being too safe, right?
They do. They park way too much cash there. But cash is a tool. It should never be the default state for your whole portfolio. You have to size it specifically, even ruthlessly, for your near-term needs, plus a good emergency reserve.
And for someone near retirement, that reserve probably needs to be a bit bigger.
A bit bigger, yeah. Maybe a year, even 2 years of living expenses. That's your hedge against having to sell growth assets in a down market. But, holding 5 years of expenses in cash when you have a 30-year life expectancy, that's just a guaranteed way to lose wealth to inflation.
So getting the time horizon right is what drives every single decision.
It's everything.
Let's switch from the asset side to the liability side. Schwab calls this the integrated balance sheet, where banking and credit aren't just chores, they're core strategic pillars.
And home financing is the perfect example here. For most people, it's the single biggest debt they'll ever have. And we are in a completely different world now than we were post-2008.
I think a lot of people who retired recently got used to seeing 30-year mortgage rates at, 3, maybe 4%? We are not there anymore.
No, we are not. And our sources are unanimous on this. 30-year rates are stubbornly, persistently above 6%. And more importantly, the expectation of ever going back to those 3% ZIRP error rates is, well, it's pretty much non-existent.
So that was an anomaly.
A total anomaly. It was fueled by abnormal monetary policy to get the economy going again. Those conditions are not likely to repeat. And this has huge implications for retirees who thought they could just tap their home equity whenever they wanted.
What about these discussions we're hearing about ultra-long mortgages, 40, even 50-year terms, as a way to make payments more affordable? What are the trade-offs there for our listeners?
Oh, the trade-offs are existential for someone focused on retirement. The monthly payment might shrink a bit, but you're signing up for 2 really damaging effects.
Okay.
First, you dramatically increase the total cost of borrowing. You end up paying tens of thousands more in interest over the life of the loan. And second, and this is the critical part, you massively delay building up any real equity.
So that means for the first decade or more, almost none of your payment is going to the actual loan balance.
Precisely. You're putting off any meaningful equity buildup. For a lot of pre-retirees, home equity is their backup plan. It's their capital for a medical emergency or for long-term care.
So if you take out a 50-year loan at age 55,
you might only have a tiny bit of equity by the time you're 70. It severely restricts that financial option right when you might need it most. It just underscores that you have to prioritize paying down debt in the years leading up to retirement.
Okay, let's shift gears completely over to taxes. And we actually have some good news here, some clarity heading into 2026.
We do. With the passage of the Budget Reconciliation Act of 2025, or OBEBA, we can do some intentional, tax-aware planning with a much clearer runway.
And the main principle here is that tax strategy isn't something you just think about in April.
No, not at all. It's a year-round exercise. It's about how you structure your withdrawals, when you take capital gains, which investment vehicles you use, and crucially, making sure you take advantage of every single provision that's available to you.
And for our 50-plus listeners, OBBA has some really specific, powerful new rules starting in 2026. Tell us about this new senior deduction.
This is a big deal. It's designed to give direct tax relief to seniors, especially those on a fixed income. So for individuals aged 65 and older, there's a new $6,000 deduction. And for qualifying married couples, where both spouses are 65 or older, that could be up to $12,000. This is for tax years 2025 through 2028. And the critical part is you can take it even if you don't itemize.
That's huge because most people take the standard deduction now. So how does this work with the existing standard deduction?
It's stacked right on top. So for 2026, the standard deduction for a married couple filing jointly is projected to be around $32,200.
Okay.
You add this new $12,000 deduction on top of that, and suddenly you've got a $44,200 reduction in taxable income right off the bat. It's a really significant benefit.
So this could mean thousands in real savings, especially for people in those lower tax brackets who are relying on Social Security and pensions.
It does. But we have to talk about the fine print because that's what always trips people up.
Oh.
This deduction is targeted. So there are phase-out thresholds based on your modified adjusted gross income, or ANGI. The deduction starts to phase out for individuals with a MANGI over $75,000 and for joint filers over $150,000.
And this is where that year-round planning becomes so critical. If I'm a couple and I'm aiming for that full $12,000 deduction, what happens if I accidentally go over that $150 NGI threshold?
The risk is substantial, and it just reinforces why tax timing matters so much. Let's say you're a retired couple and you decide to sell an investment property or a big stock position.
Right.
If that one-time capital gain pushes your MANGI from, say, 140 up to 160, you've just reduced or maybe even completely eliminated that new $12,000 deduction. It could cost you thousands in taxes just for that 1 year.
So the timing of your income from Roth conversions, IRA withdrawals, capital gains, it all has to be carefully managed to stay under that threshold.
It absolutely does. It proves that tax planning is about the calendar, not just about what you file in April.
And that leads us right into the future of legacy planning, because it's not just about houses and bank accounts anymore. The whole definition of property has changed.
It's expanded, fundamentally, to include digital assets.
This sounds kind of procedural, but I think a lot of people still underestimate how complex a digital estate can be. What are we talking about here?
It's no longer optional. It's an essential part of modern estate planning. We're talking about, liquid assets like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe valuable digital collectibles like NFTs.
Okay.
But we're also talking about online financial accounts like PayPal or Venmo, even credit card points. And then there's the really critical emotional stuff like cloud storage with all of your family photos and important records.
So if a listener has crypto or NFTs, what is the one single non-negotiable step they have to take so their family doesn't lose that value forever?
The absolute critical requirement is providing access to the private keys, or the seed phrases. There's no bank to call. There's no central authority to verify who you are. If you pass away without leaving those keys behind, that crypto wallet is locked forever. The assets are gone.
So what's the practical planning process? You can't just write a password on a sticky note.
No, please don't do that. It's highly insecure and it's easy to lose. The practical guidance is a 3-step process. First, do a complete inventory. List every single digital asset and account.
Okay.
Second, secure the access instructions. Use a highly secure encrypted password manager or a dedicated digital vault. And third, and this is the most important part, document the key to that vault. That master password is what your executor or trustee will need.
And we tend to focus on the financial stuff, the crypto and the money, but the sources also bring up cloud storage, digital photos. That's a matter of the heart.
That's a really profound point. The emotional legacy is so often neglected. People just assume their family can get into their cloud account with years of photos and videos.
But if it's locked behind a password you never shared,
that entire history can be lost. Your estate plan has to authorize your fiduciaries not just to manage money, but to memorialize or transfer these sentimental accounts.
And getting into these accounts often means dealing with state laws, like orifite, right?
That's why your legal documents have to be explicit. The revised Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act, or arofite, gives your executor the legal authority to access these accounts, but only if you explicitly grant them that permission in your will or trust.
So if your documents don't say anything about digital assets.
You're creating a huge legal headache for your family. An action item is to update your will or trust, specifically name these digital assets and authorize their management. It's about providing absolute clarity.
Okay, we've built the financial framework and the tax runway. Now let's tackle the other half of this integrated blueprint.
Right.
Because let's be honest, having millions saved up 30 years from now is pretty useless if you don't have the physical ability and the energy to actually enjoy it.
And that brings us to what Dr. Peter Attia calls longevity medicine, or medicine 3.0. The old way of thinking, medicine 2.0, was all about diagnosis and treatment. You wait for heart disease or cancer to show up, and then you react to it. Longevity medicine flips that. The goal isn't just about living longer, it's about maximizing the quality of what Attia calls the marginal decade.
The marginal decade again. That's the last 10 years of life. What's the difference between high quality and low quality in that period?
Well, without proactive effort, Attia's research shows that most people end up operating at about 50% capacity, physically and cognitively, in those last 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. They're frail, their mobility is limited, they might be cognitively impaired. The goal of medicine 3.0 is long arc prevention. You want to maximize your high-functioning life and squeeze that period of decline into the very, very end.
That sounds ambitious. How do we even start to shift from just reacting to long arc prevention?
It means being proactive about slowing down the rate of biological decline. And instead of just focusing on, your blood work, medicine 3.0 puts a huge emphasis on functional metrics.
Functional metrics.
Yeah. Attia argues that your physical fitness, your muscle mass, your strength levels, these things are incredibly predictive of how long you'll live. Maybe even more predictive than classic things like cholesterol or blood pressure.
So you're saying how fast I can run up a flight of stairs might tell me more about my mortality risk than my LDL cholesterol number?
In many ways, yes. Function is survival, and the key indicator that Attia always points to is VO2 max.
Okay, VO2 max, what is that?
It's your body's maximum capacity to use oxygen during intense exercise. It's basically how well your muscles, heart, and lungs work together to generate power. And it's widely considered the single best indicator of your overall cardiorespiratory fitness and, by extension, your longevity.
Why does it matter so much?
Because it's a holistic measurement. A high VO2 max means you have a strong heart, efficient lungs, and good muscle utilization. And the research is really clear on this. If you can move from the bottom 25% of VO2 max performance up to the top half, you can cut your risk of dying from any cause by 50% or more.
That's a bigger risk reduction than you can get from most medications.
Often, yes. It's a direct investment in your physical engine.
So beyond just fitness levels, what are the proactive diagnostic tools that longevity science uses that go beyond the typical annual physical?
The first one is the DEXA scan. It stands for Dual Energy X-ray Absorptiometry.
And that's usually for bone density, right?
It is, yeah. It costs less than $300, and it's mainly used to check for osteopenia or osteoporosis. But longevity specialists use it for a second, equally vital purpose, to measure your visceral fat.
The fat that's stored deep inside your abdomen around your organs, why is that specific type of fat so dangerous?
Because it's metabolically active and highly inflammatory. It's strongly linked to a higher risk of cancer, heart disease, insulin resistance, you name it. A DEXA scan gives you an early, really precise measure of this risk factor that you just can't get from a tape measure around your waist.
And Attia has a really strong take on when women should get these scans, calling the standard practice almost criminal negligence. What's he talking about?
Well, the standard guidance is often that women don't need their first DEXA scan until age 65. His argument is that by waiting that long, you miss a huge window of opportunity. Osteopenia, the precursor to osteoporosis, often starts in your 50s. If you catch that bone density decline early, you can intervene with diet, strength training, and sometimes medication, and it's far more effective.
Yeah.
If you wait until 65, you're treating an established problem, not preventing one.
That makes the DEXA scan a crucial investment for our listeners. What about the more controversial full-body MRI scans that are marketed as this ultimate early cancer detection tool?
This is a really complex area. There's a lot of tension between the potential benefit and the definite risks.
Okay.
Full-body MRIs can detect tumors or other abnormalities in your soft tissues much earlier than symptoms might appear. And Attia does discuss using them as a proactive tool because early detection can radically improve your odds of successful treatment.
But there's a big caveat, right? The flip side you mentioned is the high rate of false positives.
That's exactly right. The NRI is hypersensitive. It finds everything. Tiny cysts, benign nodules, old scars, things that are medically irrelevant but still require a follow-up.
And that's why the American College of Radiology doesn't recommend them for healthy, asymptomatic people.
Precisely. Because of the cascade effect it creates.
What does that cascade look like?
Well, it starts with anxiety. You get an alert about a finding. Then comes the cost and the time for more tests, more imaging, more blood work, maybe even an invasive biopsy, only to find out it was nothing to worry about. The concern is that while it's medically advanced, it hasn't been proven to be cost-effective or to actually prolong life when you apply it to the general population. If you go down this road, you have to be ready for the psychological and financial toll of those false alarms.
So while the high-tech answers can show us risks, the real longevity engine is often much simpler and cheaper. Let's broaden out to the foundation of it all. Lifestyle, as seen in the Blue Zones research.
The Blue Zones are just a remarkable model. These are the 5 places in the world, like Ikaria in Greece or Loma Linda in California, where people live significantly longer and have much lower rates of chronic disease.
And the researchers boiled it down to 9 common habits, the Power 9.
They did. And it shows that while your genes play a role, your attitude and your lifestyle are massive, massive factors.
Let's hit on a few of those Power 9 habits that really challenge our modern sedentary lifestyle, starting with move naturally.
People in the Blue Zones, they don't go to the gym for high-intensity workouts. They build constant low-level movement into their daily lives.
So gardening, walking
everywhere, taking the stairs. And importantly, they just have a habit of getting up and moving around every 20 minutes or so. This constant non-exercise activity is fundamentally different from sitting for 10 hours and then doing one hard workout.
And I think the biggest challenge for most listeners is the dietary shift, the plant slant rule.
It is a challenge.
Yeah.
The Blue Zone diet is overwhelmingly plant-based. We're talking complex carbs, beans, lentils, vegetables, fruits. They eat very, very little meat. When they do, it's a small palm-sized serving, maybe once a week for a special occasion.
For listeners who have spent decades with meat at the center of every meal, that sounds radical. What's a good first step?
The experts suggest 2 small, manageable shifts. First, start thinking of meat as a side dish or a flavoring, not the main event. And second, try to incorporate beans and legumes into your diet every day.
Black beans, lentils, chickpeas.
Exactly. They're cheap, they're nutrient-dense, and they are a staple in every single Blue Zone. It's a proven foundational step toward reducing your risk of chronic diseases.
And you combine that with the idea of eat to 80% full, the Okinawan concept of hara hachibu.
It's a mental game of restraint, and it's highly effective. It's just a mindset of stopping when you're about 80% full, not waiting until you're stuffed. And it's often paired with eating a bigger breakfast and lunch, and then a very small light supper early in the evening.
And beyond the physical stuff, the Blue Zones also emphasize the non-physical elements, right? Purpose and social connection.
These might be the most powerful longevity factors of all. Knowing your ikigai, your reason for being in Okinawa, is directly linked with living longer. It gives you motivation, reduces stress.
And the social connection part.
The link between strong social relationships and a longer life is now incredibly well documented. Having strong community bonds, a sense of belonging, supportive relationships. It protects you against depression and chronic stress, both of which speed up biological aging.
This all loops back to the idea of physical strength as our defense against getting old and frail. Because frailty and losing your independence, that's largely due to muscle loss.
Sarcopenia, yeah. And the CDC's Growing Stronger program is designed specifically to fight this. It completely counters the idea that physical decline is just something you have to accept.
Right.
Strength training is proven to build muscle, maintain bone density, improve your balance, and dramatically reduce the risk of debilitating falls. And preventing falls is one of the highest return investments you can make in your health.
But a lot of people think that if you haven't lifted weights by age 60, it's too late to start. Is that true?
That is 100% false. The research here is so encouraging. Strength training is safe and incredibly effective for people who start in their 70s, 80s, even their 90s.
Even with chronic conditions.
Even with well-managed conditions like arthritis or stable heart disease, as long as you get your doctors okay and you start slow, the body never loses its ability to build muscle.
So let's get specific. What are the strength goals that really define healthy, active aging? You mentioned the centenarian decathlon.
These are the benchmarks for functional resilience, designed by Stanford Lifestyle Medicine. They really define the minimum physical capacity you need to stay independent and to thrive.
Let's walk through them.
Okay, first, 10 push-ups in one set. This is about upper body strength. Can you push yourself up if you fall? Can you get out of bed on your own?
Got it. Second.
20 squats in one set.
Yeah.
It's absolutely vital. It tests the strength you need to get up from a low chair or the toilet without using your hands. Losing lower body strength is often the first step toward frailty.
Third benchmark.
10 bicep curls with 20-pound weights. This is about practical, everyday strength. 20 pounds is a carry-on suitcase, a bag of groceries, lifting a grandchild. It's about being able to manage your own environment.
And finally, a 1-minute plank.
The plank tests your core stability. Your core strength is the foundation of your balance. A stable core minimizes sway, which directly cuts your risk of falls, the #1 cause of injury and disability in older adults. These aren't just gym goals, they're independence goals.
That's a fantastic set of benchmarks. If you're 55 and can hit those, you are seriously investing in your future. And if you're 75 and working towards them, you are actively buying yourself more high-quality, independent time.
That's the whole point.
Okay, now let's synthesize this. We've talked about health and wealth separately, but the real magic happens when we see the financial payout. Our first story shows the 6-figure return you can get from optimizing your health.
This is so critical because most people see eating well or going to the gym as a cost, not a financial investment with a real, measurable return.
Right.
But LIMR data shows this perfectly. Take a typical 45-year-old woman with a chronic condition like high blood pressure. If she adopts a healthy lifestyle, better diet, more exercise, she can reduce her annual healthcare costs before retirement by an average of $3,651.
So she feels better, she's healthier, and she suddenly has over $3,600 in extra cash flow every year.
Exactly. Now let's add the power of compounding. If she invests that saved money every year at a pretty modest 4.3% return, by the time she turns 65, that simple health change has added more than $112,000 to her retirement plan.
That is just staggering. It's not just about avoiding a big hospital bill. It's about freeing up capital to invest and compound for 2 decades. Health is arguably the biggest financial multiplier you have.
And this story applies to roughly half of all adults who have a chronic condition. Lifestyle changes are often more powerful than medication at preventing these diseases from getting worse, which results in huge annual savings.
Okay, let's turn to the early retiree's biggest problem. Let's say we have a listener, age 62, 7-figure portfolio, ready to retire. The biggest roadblock is that 3-year gap until they're eligible for Medicare.
And private health insurance in that gap, without any help, is prohibitively expensive. This is where we get into the MGI sweet spot and the ACA bridge strategy.
The ACA, the Affordable Care Act marketplace.
Right. It's really the only viable solution for most people in that bridge period. And here's the absolute key. ACA subsidies are based on your modified adjusted gross income, your MGI, not on your assets.
So you're telling me I can have $2 million in a brokerage account and still get my health insurance premiums drastically reduced?
Yes, as long as you manage your income. For 2026, the critical goal is to keep your MGI below the subsidy cliff, which is the point where the help starts to phase out. For a couple, that's estimated to be around $85,000.
If you go $1 over that.
You could lose thousands of dollars in subsidies instantly.
But how does an early retiree live on that little income if they need, say, $80,000 a year for their expenses?
This is the strategic solution. They have to use their tax buckets strategically. Most retirees have 3 buckets of money, right?
The taxable brokerage account, the tax-deferred IRA or 401k, and the tax-free Roth account.
Exactly. So the withdrawals from your tax-deferred accounts are taxed as income and raise your MGI dollar for dollar. But withdrawals from your Roth are tax-free and don't count towards your MGI. And taking principal out of your taxable account is also not income.
So the goal for the early retiree is to live entirely out of buckets 1 and 3.
That's the strategy.
Yeah.
You draw down the non-taxable principal from your brokerage account first. Then you pull from your Roth accounts. Imagine a couple needs $80,000 for living expenses. If they take $40,000 from their Roth and $40,000 from the principal in their brokerage account, what's their MGI?
0.
0. They qualify for the maximum possible ACA subsidy and could pay almost nothing in premiums.
But what if they mess up and pull that whole $80,000 from their traditional IRA instead?
Their MGI immediately becomes $80,000. They're still under the cliff, but they've used up all their room. And what if they also sell some stock with a $6,000 capital gain?
Now their MVGI is 86,000.
And they've just crossed the subsidy cliff. They could lose $10,000 or $15,000 in premium assistance for the whole year, all because of one small, unplanned, taxable transaction.
It's the perfect illustration of how your withdrawal strategy is a critical tax move to keep healthcare affordable.
It requires meticulous planning every single year. This coordinated strategy using Roth and taxable accounts to control your income is the hallmark of a truly confident early retirement.
Okay, let's boil this all down into 4 concrete, actionable steps you can take today to build your own integrated health and wealth blueprint.
Let's start with the easiest financial boost you can get. Maximize your catch-up contributions. If you're 50 or older, Congress literally created this for you to help you catch up, and the long-term impact is staggering.
Give us the numbers for 2026.
For 2026, the standard 401k catch-up for those 50 and over is $8,000. But, and this is important, if you are specifically between the ages of 60 and 63, the Secure 2.0 Act gives you a super catch-up of $11,250.
And for IRAs?
The IRA catch-up is an extra $1,100, bringing your total possible contribution to $8,600. That small extra amount, say, maxing out your 401k with that extra $7,500 a year, can easily add up to around $193,000 more by age 65.
It's basically free money growth for those over 50. Actionable takeaway number 2 is on the physical side. Start simple strength training. Now, think of it as your personal longevity insurance policy.
Don't wait until you have joint pain. Just begin the CDC's Growing Stronger Part I program. It's just your body weight and a chair. Focus on the core moves, squats, wall push-ups, and toe stands. Start slow, 2 or 3 times a week. Focus on perfect form.
And the goal for progressing?
Once you can do 2 sets of 10 reps in good form, you move on. You add small weights, and I mean small, like 2 or 3 pounds, to things like bicep curls and overhead presses. Remember the goal. Hit those centenarian decathlon benchmarks to keep your bone density and fight off the muscle loss that leads to frailty.
Okay, takeaway number 3 is that critical bridge strategy. Map your MVGI.
If you're retiring early, you have to calculate the exact length of that health insurance bridge to age 65. Then, figure out your annual income need and commit to using your non-taxable principal and your tax-free Roth withdrawals first to control your NGI.
And avoid any large, unplanned taxable events that could push you over that subsidy cliff.
Exactly. During that bridge period, healthcare affordability is priority number 1.
And finally, let's protect your family's future. Define and document your digital legacy.
This is a preventative measure against future heartbreak. Do a full digital inventory today. List all your online financial accounts, your cloud storage, any crypto holdings, and crucially, you have to securely store the private keys or seed phrases in a digital vault and make sure your executor knows the master key to that vault.
And then update your will.
Then update your will or trust to explicitly authorize your executor to manage, memorialize, or delete these accounts. Technology changes fast, so you need to review this inventory every single year.
The central lesson from this entire deep dive is that success in your 50s and beyond comes from intentional integration. You just can't separate your financial decisions from your physical capacity.
No, you can't.
You have to align your investments with your real-time horizon, use these new tax laws like the OBBA senior deduction to your full advantage, and proactively recognize that your physical strength is the true foundation of your financial resilience.
We've seen it. Living longer means planning for higher costs. But the opportunity cost of not being healthy means you miss out on that 6-figure return on investment that comes from taking care of yourself. In your 50s, your body is your greatest asset.
And knowing you have such direct control over both your future finances and your physical health, that should give you immense confidence. So let me leave you with this final provocative thought. We know healthcare costs are the #1 uncertainty for people nearing retirement. And yet, we also know that healthy people live longer, which means their money has to last longer. So what's the biggest threat to your golden years? Is it an unexpected market downturn? Or is it failing to intentionally invest in your physical health starting today? The choice you make now doesn't just define how long you live, but how vibrantly and independently you get to retire.
We really hope this blueprint helps you make those intentional choices.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into securing your confident and active future. We encourage you to explore the original source material and to subscribe to the deep dive for more expert-guided knowledge.